We're going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Anderson Township Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, August 25th, 2014. We have 4 items on the agenda. First item is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion on that?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda subject to moving item 2 to the end.
Okay. Second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we have 2 items on the agenda tonight. We'll call them now 2 and 3 that are quasi-judicial hearings. These are quasi-judicial because any action we take is appealable to both the Board of Township Trustees and the Common Pleas Court. So I'm going to go ahead and read into the record some narrative that kind of describes how we're going to proceed, but that will include anyone in the office that's going to testify being sworn in, so we'll do that at the end, so bear with me here. Under our zoning resolution, our decision is subject to appeal to the Board of Township Trustees and then to the Court of Common Pleas. And as a result, we must employ different procedures from other cases that are typically presented to the Zoning Commission. Because this is quasi-judicial, the Commission will only receive evidence as to whether the applications meet or does not meet the standards and criteria in the zoning resolution. We do not want to hear opinions, just the facts. As a result, all persons presenting testimony tonight will, before the Commission, whether for or against an application, may do so only after being sworn in and subject to being cross-examined. The staff, the way we'll begin is the staff will present a summary of the application. The applicant will then present its case, and the board may ask questions at that time of the applicant or the staff. If an attorney is present presents the case for the applicant, the attorney is not sworn in and is not considered to be a witness. As a result, the attorney's statements are not considered as evidence. Evidence only comes in through the witnesses who testify before the Commission after being sworn in. The burden is on the applicant to present evidence that the application satisfies the standards and criteria for approval. After the applicant presents its case through its witnesses, all persons in the audience supporting the application will be permitted to testify, one at a time after being recognized by the chair. When all persons supporting the application are finished, those opposed to the application will then be permitted to testify after being recognized by the chair. If anyone in opposition is represented by an attorney, that party will go first, followed by members of the audience. As I said previously, all persons wishing to testify, whether for or against the application, may do so only after being sworn in. When testifying, each person from the audience must come forward to the podium after being recognized, speak into the microphone, and state their name, address, and any affiliation to the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a Commission member requests that they be given additional time. All testimony is directed to the Commission members and the Commission only. No comments or questions are to be directed to the applicant or anyone else in the audience. The Commission will only hear new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone in the audience wish to show support of the previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures in stating their support of that previous testimony. So now, anybody who may give testimony this evening, please stand and raise your right hand and swear or affirm. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Please be seated. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin with now item 2 on the agenda, which is the quasi-judicial hearing for case 2-2014. This is a PUD, so we'll hear first from the staff summary. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is Michael Hicks of Commercial Site Design, and he is representing Gerald and Kenneth Ayer, who are the property owners. The location is at 7835 Beachmont Avenue, and the zoning is E retail. The site is 0.407 acres. It's flat, has approximately 125 feet of frontage on Beachmont Avenue, and the site was formerly a Taco Bell restaurant, which has been vacant for a couple of years. The surrounding zoning in the red is retail. the yellow is single-family zoning, the blue is office zoning. This is a condominium complex, so although it is zoned E-commercial, it is used for residential purposes. This is IHM Church, and again, the other surrounding, this is a dry cleaner, this is a laundromat, and then other various retail uses on Beachmont Avenue. This is an aerial of the site in question. Again, it used to be a former Taco Bell restaurant. There is this is the terminus of Immaculate Lane, so there is a right-of-way from Immaculate Lane out to Beachmont Avenue. It is township right-of-way, and there is a sidewalk that goes in that right-of-way to take pedestrians from Immaculate to Beachmont Avenue. Again, this is a dry cleaner. This is a condominium complex. A laundromat is here in an office building. So the applicant is proposing a Krispy Kreme restaurant, approximately 2,600 square feet with a drive-through and both indoor and outdoor seating. Along with this as well is landscaping, lighting, and signage was submitted as part of their application, although no variances are being requested for signage. This is being reviewed as a PUD because the impervious surface is 84%, so that triggers the PUD review. There is the proposed to consolidate both. Currently, there are two drives. There was an entrance and an exit at the former Taco Bell. So this application does consolidate entrances and exits into one access onto Beachmont Avenue. Parking is proposed. There is a drive-through and a bypass lane that's proposed to the adjoining property, the dry cleaning property, and that's through this little area here. The site is very tight, so they were trying to accommodate everything on this site, but also allow for bypass traffic if you're in the drive-through lane and you wanted to get out. It also allows for overflow parking if needed, and there was a letter submitted from the property owner next door that authorizes this. Again, as part of the application, there's outdoor seating. There are several variances that are being requested. One is the reduction of the two-way drive aisle from 24 feet to 22 feet. The second is a front yard setback of 26 feet where 30 feet is required, and there is an awning. The main building itself is set back, or meets the 30-foot front yard setback, but there is an awning that encroaches into that area, so there's a front yard setback request. There's a rear yard setback for the pavement in the back. Because it is adjacent to residentially used property, it is required to be 10 feet, and the applicant is proposing 4 feet. And then with the parking calculations, this property did meet bonuses to reduce their optimum required parking count. The bonuses include the sidewalk, the reduction of 2 curb cuts into 1, and then also the opportunity for shared parking. So once the calculations were done, the applicant, or we did a calculation that 22 spaces were required, and the applicant's proposing 18 parking spaces initially. And then at the terminus, there's a billboard on the site. At the terminus of the lease of the billboard, removing the billboard, and additional parking spot there, which would bring the total parking spaces to 19 when 22 is required. So they are still requesting a variance for the optimum number of parking spaces. And then there's also a 5th variance request for lighting levels. And this is the photometric plan. I highlighted the areas where the plan exceeds the minimum standards, or the maximum standards, I should say, at the property line. So to the north, to the east, and to the west, it's commercial zoning and commercial uses, so the standard is 0.75 foot candles at the property line. And then toward the rear, since it is adjoining a residential use, it's 0.1 foot candles at the property line. So they are exceeding the lighting levels in the area shown. These are the elevation drawings of the site. It is proposed to have a mixture of architectural features, including a stone base along the base of the structure, windows on the north and on the west sides, and then you can see the drive-through side as well. These are all 4 elevations of the building. And these are just existing photos of what's there now. Currently, the parking does go all the way to the property line on the south, and there is a privacy fence that separates the condominiums from the parking lot. As you can see, the majority of the site is actually paved and is impervious. There is limited landscaping in the front. And then this is the picture of the billboard. And then two other items to note on this plan. There is an overhang easement. If you can see this dotted line along the, these two properties used to be owned by the same owner. In January, the laundromat was sold to new ownership. So there is an overhang easement for this structure. So that does limit what can go in that easement area. And then on the opposite side, there is a utility easement for the utility lines. So, and you can see that by the dash line through here. So the building cannot encroach into that utility easement. And there are, you saw from the site photos. So that also limits the buildable area and the developable area. So they're trying to squeeze in between the two easements. There is a sidewalk. Again, this was the public sidewalk that is on Township right away. So just two other items to note. So with a PUD request, we look at the Township's adopted plans. We talked about the variances. So with the Township adopted plans, we first look at the comprehensive plan, and staff was of the opinion that it was consistent with the following goals with economic development, land use and development, and filling of vacant parcels and vacant structures. Staff was also of the opinion that it did meet the Anderson Trails plan. There is proposed a sidewalk along the beachfront frontage, also tying in the existing sidewalk from Immaculate Lane. So tying in the sidewalk, so it was compliant with the trails plan. The design guidelines, it was consistent with site planning, the limited space they had to tie in pedestrian access, moving the building as close to Beachmont as possible while accommodating a drive-through. It's difficult to move, you know, our design guidelines do encourage the buildings closer to the road to create a more pedestrian neighborhood type feel, but it is problematic with the drive-through. So staff was of the opinion that they did the best they could to move it up while also accommodating a drive-through. It does have a front door entrance, and it does have windows on two sides of the structure, so you know, and the drive-throughs on the other side. So as far as architectural features and having a front door appearance and the facade, we felt that it was consistent with the design guidelines. And same with signage. The sign is proposed to be about 15 feet tall, although it is somewhat of a monument-style sign. The Beachmont corridor and vision plans, again, I think we touched on that. They are consolidating 2 curb cuts into 1 curb cut, and also providing a sidewalk. And as far as the neighborhood, this is in neighborhood 4, the vision plan, and it's a transition from the more traditional style neighborhood into a more modern style neighborhood the farther east you go. So this is kind of a mix in between. It's not a 2-story building, but it does have some elements that it does increase the height of the building. So staff's recommendation was approval of the PUD based off of the items that were in your staff report. As far as the variances go, again, there were 5 variance requests. Staff was of the opinion that at least 4 of those, the first 4 that dealt with the 2-way drive aisle, the front yard setback, the rear yard setback of the driveway, the number of parking spaces should be approved. However, staff was of the opinion that the lighting variance should not be approved. And these are the reasons of why, the reasons are in your staff report. As far as the ones that we're not recommending approval are the lighting variances. Really, they're pretty high on both sides, on all 3 sides of the commercial, when 0.75 is required. They are exceeding that quite substantially, so we feel like this would provide a hot spot on Beachmont Avenue as you're driving down, that this site would really be lit up. And then we really had concerns, especially about the southern property line when you're joining residential property. That's, you know, it was always a commercial structure backing directly into condominiums, so they're actually pulling it away and providing a little bit more of a buffer, not much, but so the situation's not changing too much with the fence and the parking up to the parking lot. But we feel that if the lighting was out of compliance, it should now be brought into compliance to eliminate any, you know, detriment on the surrounding properties. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the staff for anybody on the zoning commission? Jay?
had a question about the driveway on the exit. Is it a right only out, or is it?
It is full access,
Is there two going out, or just the one?
just the one. It is a wider to allow for the turning radius for the drive-through traffic. So you'll see a 30-foot curb cut, and then it narrows to 22, but that's to allow for the right, or the turning movement coming out of the
Right.
drive-out.
But does staff have any concern with people coming out of the drive-through and getting backed up and people wanting to go left on Beachmont? Some sort of congestion and
It is,
with no light?
right, it is. It's just, it's a mid-block crossing, and it's one of those things. It was the existing situation. We feel like it is making the situation better by consolidating two into one, but yes.
Okay.
And then this does also allow for some bypass traffic if for some reason,
All right.
you know.
I had another question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
The other question had to do with the lighting, and maybe it's for the proposed hours of operation. Was the lighting there because their hours are opening earlier based on the type of business, and is that a safety to have more lighting because they're open earlier?
I don't know, you know, businesses are allowed 24-hour operation, so, and I don't know if this is 24 hours or not, but regardless, you know, we're looking at the lighting levels, no matter if they turn them off when they're closed or not, that it be compliant.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you. Christine?
Can you talk about the signage again? Did you say we're not?
The signage is compliant. Originally, the sign was proposed here, and that has now been relocated on the other side because of the utility easement. So when the freestanding sign was located over here, it did require variance because it was less than 10 feet from the property line. So they did go ahead and submit their sign package for your benefit, so you could see, and that could be part of your consideration, your decision as part of the overall PUD of the site, but no variances. Everything that was submitted is compliant.
Okay.
Jonathan?
I had no questions at this time.
Just another question on the signage. On the package, I thought I saw a sign on the rear of the building. That was the Hot and Now, or whatever, donut,
They're not showing on the, I have,
not on the elevations, but in the sign
In
package.
the sign package?
Yeah.
Number 4 of 20.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Number 420 in the sign package, it's got a almost 16-square-foot sign on the rear of the building in neon.
okay,
And I don't think the residents really need that to know the donuts already.
maybe.
So
I
I
don't
would certainly
know.
strike that from there. And I don't think that complies anyway, does it?
It can be, it can be neon, as long as the lighting
No,
levels.
I mean, on the rear elevation without.
Yes, they can have signage on the rear.
What page are you on?
Number
420.
Right, we base the total calculation off of the facade, and they can split it up and put it on any side of the building they want.
And in those calculations, did you go back and recalculate their freestanding sign to box it out? Because they broke out the individual components.
Yes.
So the square footage they gave us was not correct. Okay. That's all I have.
Anything further? Thank you. This time, we're going to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward to the podium. State your name, your address, and your affiliation, and go ahead and present your case. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Michael Hicks. I'm with Commercial Site Design in Raleigh, North Carolina. 80. My home address is 8213, so I get them flip-flopped all the time. 8312 Creedmoor Road, Raleigh is the work address. And pleasure to be here tonight. I wanted to thank you, Paul, for the presentation. Covered a lot of the attributes we're bringing to the site. Wanted to kind of clarify a couple of other attributes we're bringing. The site right now is roughly around 95% impervious, and with the post-development, it's going to be around 84%. So we're reducing impervious by a great percentage on this property. The back of the property, as Paul had mentioned, there is a wooden fence there. That wooden fence is actually on the adjacent property. We are proposing a second fence, wooden fence, along with some sky junipers. That would be a dense evergreen, vertical buffer along that back property line. So, there will be an enhancement of landscaping and fencing in the back of the property for our neighbors. And, also, we've talked with DOT as well. I've had some discussions with Ohio DOT about the driveway, and, basically, we did concede to doing, only one driveway here based on our due diligence with them. And the second driveway, they actually asked me to widen it to, the width that I got shown on the plan, which I think is 30. So, we had shared that plan with them back, in the early due diligence phase. So we've had that dialogue with them. And so I wanted to just, address that comment that you had as well. In regards to lighting, and, I may be wrong on this, Paul. I was looking at the page of the lighting plus the site plan, and I think those may be the older plans that are, okay. And we have adjusted our lighting to meet at the front along Beachmont Avenue, the foot candle measurements there. The rear, we have one spot where we're at 0.2, and it's at the southeast corner of the property. Basically, that's where the sidewalk that comes from Immaculate Lane that crosses between us and the, what's to my right? The dry cleaners. Yeah, I always get the laundromats and dry cleaners confused because similar uses in a way. So we do have lighting that is above the minimum standards along the sides between the dry cleaners and the laundromat. And part of the reasoning that it is exceeding that is because we have adapted and adjusted our plan to basically meet the rear property line and the front property line. So when you start turning poles one way, guess what? It's going to, push lighting in another direction. These lights do have shields on them already. Our lighting plan shows that. I just wanted to bring up a few other attributes of the site. We have outdoor seating. It's very important to the Krispy Kreme brand to have outdoor seating. And with that, there are some, obviously some safety concerns. You've got a lot of pedestrian traffic out here too. You've got the sidewalk along Beachmont. You've got the sidewalk along the east property line. Also, we've added a bike rack. So, there could be somebody riding a bicycle, and we want to make sure there's good lighting. And we've worked as, I've worked with our lighting vendor very closely on the lighting to get it to where, it is right now. And, all the other variance requests, I appreciate Paul working with us on, and I respectfully ask if you could consider my points into that last matter regarding the lighting. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you've got any other questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Hicks?
No question. Yes. No question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Anybody else? Christine?
I have a question, yeah. I see that the sign in the signage package for the menu, is that a visual only? Do they actually order at the window?
No, there's a menu board.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
That's my only question.
Yep.
I guess, going back to lighting, you said orientation of poles and all that, but along the west property line, you're still, in the 2s and 3s as far as the light level there compared to the zoning code of .75. Is there anything more that you can do with the location of the poles to provide better lighting? I guess reduction of spillover to the adjacent properties?
I've worked with a couple of, to answer your questions here. They already do have shields. The relocation of the lighting would be, I really have nowhere else to put it except for around the building footprint. And around the building footprint, we have, a transformer box at the southwest corner of the building footprint. I have a little island up there at the front. We really like to put the poles on the perimeter, to be honest with you. The visual, we've got a very attractive building here. We don't want a pole right in front of it. I've worked with the lighting vendor, and he's told me that he can't really get these lights down to any more, because if he starts moving in one direction, it's going to throw it to another point, of getting it higher. I mean, I've got a .4 acre lot to deal with, and, you know, along the east property line, you know, my building is pretty close to that property line already, and, you know, if somebody turns the light on inside the building, it probably exceeds the lighting standards on the adjacent property. I mean, I'm assuming there, and that's not factual. I shouldn't say that quasi-judicial, but you know, that's my expert testimony.
And I didn't see a cut sheet for the fixture. Is it a full cut?
Yes, sir.
cutoff fixture?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, Krispy Kreme, you know, their hours of operation, I mean, they do have some stores that are 24/7. I wouldn't want to condition this, but to best of my knowledge, that it's going to be a 5:30 to 11 business hour. You know, I wouldn't want to, you know, offer up the condition that we wouldn't be 24/7, but to the best of my knowledge, it's going to be 5:30 to 11.
So are the site lighting fixtures only on during the hours of operation then?
Well,
Could be.
supposedly, yes.
I think the last question I have is concerning the signage package. The monument sign that's out front, it looks more like a pole sign as far as 15 feet in height. Is this truly the proposed sign?
Is it a proposed sign?
Right. Is
Yes,
this a
sir.
proposed sign for the site?
Yeah, 15 feet, yes, sir.
I think that's the only question I have at this time. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, I had a couple, and I'll just continue on on the lighting for a minute.
Sure.
In the letter that we received in our packet dated July 31st, I think from you, on the first page, it says, along with new landscaping, will be new site lighting that will comply with the lighting standards that's set forth in
Yep.
the ordinance. So is there a
Good catch.
disconnect between the
Good
photometric
catch,
plan and your
good
letter?
catch, good catch. Yes, there is.
Okay,
And
so
yeah, go ahead.
you are going to comply, or the photometric plan is what you're asking for approval of?
What you know, this letter was written, you know, back on July 31st, and we've gone through reiterations. The lighting vendor who I work, you know, as a, you know, I'm with the civil engineering team, okay? So the lighting vendor's a third party, okay? He prepares the lighting plan, and I was assuming that we can meet code, okay? But after he looks at the ordinance and adjusts everything he can, we're at this position where we can't meet code. So that one line out of the 4-page narrative is null and void.
So does the photometric plan then, does that include the wall packs that are proposed for
Yes,
the
ma'am.
building? Okay. And then what's the mounting height? Because I could not find that anywhere.
I think
on
it's
the photo.
24, let me double check.
Just for clarification purposes, because there was a
Yeah,
revised
24.
lighting plan. It should be August the 20th, is that what you have?
16 sheets.
We're still not in compliance, but it was closer. I just want to make sure we were all looking at the right
7/28.
Yeah, so I guess...
We have July
if-
28th.
of July.
Yeah, July 28th.
Then, just a
Same
couple
sheet
of,
here. Okay.
couple of other questions that I had for you. That sign on the rear, I'm assuming that can go away.
If you would like it to go away, we can.
And talk to me about truck access. Do you have semi, or is it DSD, or how do you get
There-
deliveries? And how are they going to get in and out,
Okay.
and what hours, and so forth?
It's fine. Good question. There are vans that will be, this store, let me kind of explain the operations, okay? There's what they call the 110M line, which is the donut maker, okay? So it's going to make 110 dozen donuts an hour. So it's going to have vans, okay, taking donuts to supermarkets. So, you know, 5:30 to 8 o'clock, there will be, you know, a good bit of van traffic. You know,
So they'll be I don't mean to interrupt you, but, so they'll be coming in, parking, Paul, could you put the site plan up for just a minute? Because I'd like to know where they're going to be and how they're going to load those.
Okay.
I mean, are
I'll
these
show you.
vans going to be taking up some of the parking spaces that we're granting
There-
variance on?
there's a loading area that's parallel to
Okay.
the drive-through lane that's crosshatched. That's where the trucks will sit, basically. You know, they'll be there for, I mean, I've seen them do it. I mean, they're there for maybe 10 minutes, and then, they'll load them up real fast, and they give them drop it off at this church, or drop it off at this office, or Kroger, or wherever. So, that's the routes they do. There's a dumpster right there at the bottom left corner. So, I mean, there's access, available for that dumpster, and we will periodically have a semi come by with, large bulk equipment, for the, carrying flour and things like that. But that will be maybe once or twice a week at the max.
But talk to me about the route then for the semi.
The route? Okay. It's going to be, it can come down through the adjacent property or through the main driveway on our property. So it's going to, through the cross-access, there's two, that's part of that cross-access connection, is to give that semi and anybody a way out of the site, because, we've got 0.4 acres to play with. So we have run, our truck templates and everything, and they work. So
the turning movement template then coming in off of Beachmont, if the semi comes in, and I'm assuming he's doing this year off-peak hours, and he comes in and he pulls along to the back, and he's probably going to, at that point, block your drive-through, and he's going to unload whatever he's unloading, and then he's going to go to the east across.
Yep.
And then, did you do the turning movement on that island? I mean, can he make that turn?
On the adjacent property, yeah, I mean, this is a wide-open parking field, so he can come straight out where that center line is in the middle of the driveway, and then kind of loop back toward where it says asphalt area and get back out that way.
And then to service the dumpster, I guess they come in on the adjacent parcel, go the opposite
Yes, ma'am.
way. So that would most definitely have to be when the store's closed.
Yes,
And then they go back out, I assume,
Yes.
out your access.
yes.
Okay. The fence that you're replacing it with wood. Did you give any thought to maybe doing that with vinyl, only because I'm seeing more commercial developments incorporating vinyl because of the maintenance issues?
To clarify, we're not replacing the other fences on the adjacent property,
I'm
so
sorry,
that's staying.
installing.
Okay, so we're installing a second fence. We did not consider vinyl. I mean, personally, I don't think we've even thought about that. I mean, wood is we've done wooden fencing before. Vinyl, you might have some dents on it. Of course, you might have some, you never know what's going to happen to any fence, but, I think we'd prefer to do a wooden fence.
And then the letter, and maybe I just didn't quite understand this, on the second page, it talks about a parking reduction from the required minimum of 27 spaces to 14 spaces.
1 to 100, and then a 50% zoning administrative waiver, is that right?
We had a little bit of a different interpretation, which is understandable with our bonus formula and our zoning regulations. And I can go over how staff calculated it, but it was slightly different than what Mr. Hicks had calculated it. Regardless, staff felt that 22 was optimal, and 19 is being provided once the billboard comes down.
Okay.
So,
That's nice.
Right, the formula was based off of a certain percentage for your curb cut, certain percentage for your sidewalk, and then automatically you're allowed to go 10% up or 10% down, so. But that's where there was a little discrepancy. Once we received the letter, then I emailed Mr. Hicks and told him how we would have interpreted it, so that's why there's a discrepancy there.
And,
And just, what percentage of the traffic at Krispy Kreme is carry-out?
Okay. Well, drive-through is almost 50%.
Okay.
And that was another point I was going to just, even though your ordinance doesn't speak to that, but, I've seen places where it can be interpreted that drive-through spaces count toward parking spaces. A lot of ordinances that don't read that, and I think Paul and I may have briefly talked about that, but, that's outside the code, never to say, but it's about a 50-50 ratio for the drive-through window and people that come in and,
And then on the building elevations, is there any way to break up all that ephes? I know you've got stone at about, 2-3 feet maybe?
Yeah.
Is there any way to break that up any further? And that's a lot of ephes on that building.
In terms
And
of...
is it really olive green?
No.
That's just a bad,
What are you talking about the...
the ephes looks to me
The
like it's
tiles?
olive green.
It's not, I think that,
Label
let me see if I got it
somewhere,
Looks
yeah.
like it's olive green. I was like, ooh,
But there's a
that's a
note
lot of
somewhere
green.
that's beige, I think they called it.
And then while you're looking at that, maybe this is an easy one. The parapets then that'll screen all of the HVAC?
Yes.
There's where I saw it.
I just like to see if we can bring them up. Because that's, I don't care if it's green or if it's beige, it's still a lot of ephes there.
You know, I think the sign package actually gives you a better, representation of the color.
It's kind of green there.
I agree. Even this ground looks lime green, and that's, I ain't seen grass look like that
Well,
since Disney World, I don't know.
Whether it's green or it's tan, is there a way to raise up that stone base some, to start to break that up some more?
Specifically how much?
Well, what's it now?
I think I'm gonna have to look at the elevations here.
10. Yeah, it's less than 3 feet right now.
Yep.
So if it were to come
Well-
up, say, to 4 feet,
Well, our drive-through window is at 3 feet, basically. So if we went up above 3, I mean, I understand what you're wanting. I mean, I don't know how awkward it would look if we went up to 4, to be honest with you, where it's above the drive-through window base. I mean, what?
My last question has to do with, and you heard a little bit of questions about the signage. We have talked to a number of new folks that have come into Beachmont Avenue recently who have brought in pylon signs similar to the ones that you're proposing, and they have, for the most part, been very welcoming in going to a ground mount sign. And is that something that you would consider, like with a maximum height of 10 feet, something on a stone base to complement the stone on your building?
You said 10?
Paul, what did wasn't it 10 that we did with the pub and grill? Other restaurants have been doing it.
Yeah, I think we
would
could
say.
do that.
I think that was all the questions that I had.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Can I have a couple more
Yes,
questions?
sir, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, a couple things came to mind. The dumpster enclosure, what is that being proposed as far as a finished material?
Masonry.
Okay. What kind of masonry? Is it the same?
Matched building.
Matched building?
Yes, sir.
And then a little bit of difference between the elevations submitted and the renderings where the elevations call for brick in the construction package, but the renderings show stone. Which one is proposed for this site?
There is ephes, I'm looking at sheet A6, and the main body of the building is shown as E1 ephes.
Right, I'm looking at the base, which is
Oh.
labeled B1,
Yes, sir.
which is Carolina Ceramics Gray Velour,
Right.
but the renderings show a stone base, and it's been discussed tonight as a stone base.
Oh. Well, I apologize for the misclarification. I should have said brick. And if I'm looking at the elevation, the renderings correctly, they look like brick to me. Unless I'm,
No, this looks like stone, I think, to me.
On the sign package.
well, if you look at, sorry, if you look at, can I come over?
Do you have a slide, Paul, of what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Brick wainscot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So would the same brick then be used as the finished material for the entire height of the dumpster enclosure?
That brick enclosure, that part of the, yeah, we can do that.
The entire height? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you.
This time, we'll go ahead and take testimony from anybody in the audience who might support the application, and don't see anybody in the audience that might. Anybody here to oppose the application? No? With that, are there any last questions from the commission before I close the public hearing?
No questions?
Okay. So hearing no further comments or questions, if there's no objection, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing on case number 2-2014. At this point, the commission will take the case under consideration, deliberate either tonight or at one of our upcoming meetings. Thank you, Mr. Hicks, for your participation.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'll leave it up to the, I guess, discretion of the zoning commission. Shall we go ahead and act on this tonight? Prepared? Okay. So if there are no more comments or questions, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I've been taking a bunch of notes, so let me throw one out and see how it
All right?
sticks, so we say. I would make a motion that we would approve Case Anderson 2-2014 PUD for the Krispy Kreme proposed for 7835 Beachmont Avenue with the variance from Section 104.1, with the variance from Section 144A5, with the variance from Section 145B1, and those are relative to the front yard setback, the rear yard setback, and the reduction in the number of parking spaces. Also subject to the fact that the lighting will comply with the requirements of the zoning resolution, that there would be no signage on the rear of the building, that the freestanding sign would be limited to a ground-mounted sign not to exceed 10 feet in height, be located on a brick base to match the brick of the building, that all of the rooftop-mounted mechanical equipment would be screened from view, both from the right-of-way of Beachmont Avenue and from surrounding properties, that the proposed brick that right now is shown at less than 3 feet on the base of the building be extended at a reasonable height to work with staff on that, and that the waste enclosure have an exterior appearance of the brick to match the building and the base of the sign.
This, a variance for section 144C1 is approved.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was on the other page, yes.
The driveway aisle.
Yes, sorry, it was on the other page, I'd circled it.
Staff catch that?
Are there any other conditions?
Just the ones that I suggested.
Other recommended conditions?
Do you want to give me a hint, Paul?
Yeah, page,
Page 4.
Yes, and subject to the fact that the township receive a certified letter from the property owner prior to final occupancy that acknowledges that the billboard would be removed at the end of its current lease term.
I'll second the motion.
so we have a second. Let's go ahead and have roll call.
Andy Fry,
Yes?
Jonathan Goffin,
Yes.
Christine Cook,
Yes.
Shane Lewis,
Yes.
Matt Van Steen.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Okay, next item on the agenda is also a quasi-judicial hearing. We've already had the swearing in for that case, so at this point, staff, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for your presentation. And this is case 3-2014.
The applicant is Joshua Lyons of GPD Group on behalf of MII Anderson Pad LLC, who is the property owner The applicant's also representing PNC Bank as the tenant. The location is at 7500 Beachmont Avenue, and the request is, again, a PUD, Planned Unit Development request for the expansion of the drive-through teller, or the drive-through lane. This site in question is 1.146 acres. There's approximately 308 feet of frontage on Beachmont Avenue. Again, the topography is flat, and the existing use is PNC Bank. The surrounding uses to the north is the Anderson Town Center, which is retail. This is the Kroger fueling station, CVS Pharmacy. To the south is Christ Hospital Ambulatory, and then you also have a church, which is Zone C, but the majority of the area is Zone E retail. This is the aerial of the site in question, the main entrance into the Anderson Town Center. Again, this is CVS Pharmacy, the existing bank, and this is an older aerial that does not reflect the current changes, which we'll talk about. This is the Kroger fueling station, and then the Kroger in the background. So the applicant is proposing to widen the existing 10-foot drive aisle to 2 12-foot lanes to provide stacking distance for the drive-through. And as you saw from the aerial, the drive-through used to be somewhat of a reverse drive-through. You would enter into the windows, which is somewhat reversed from what you would normally expect from a drive-through. Recent improvements, and we had the auditor's website said the building was built in 1929, which sounded a little old to us. But anyway, that's what the auditor says, so we'll go with it. But in 2009, National City merged with PNC Bank, and we issued zoning certificates for new signage for the property. And then back in November 2013, a zoning certificate was issued for an addition. It was 1,870 square foot addition to the existing bank, and at that time, they reduced the impervious surface of the site so that it wasn't necessary to go through the PUD process. So they did eliminate additional parking and created green space. They also did facade improvements. The front door was repositioned to face Beachmont Avenue. Other improvements of the facade, actually, let's just go on to I'll get to the site photos. These are the proposed, is to widen the drive aisle, again, from a single lane to 2 lane. So these are some of these photos of the recent improvements. This was the addition. The drive aisle was realigned to come around through the parking lot. The front door now is actually facing Beachmont Avenue instead of having the back facing the street. They did add glass to the addition, and they also did, which I don't have a picture of, they did add a window, or the appearance of a window on Beachmont Avenue. This is the existing drive aisle. Landscaping has been installed, and their proposal is to relocate the landscaping into the right-of-way. So this parking was eliminated with the previous zoning certificate, and again, now the drive-through traffic comes through the parking lot and instead of the reverse. So with the findings, same as with the last application, we review with it being a PUD, we review the requests against the adopted township plans to see if compliance with zoning resolution compliance. This is compliant. The drive aisle is located 1.7 feet from the right-of-way. However, it is not a parking area, so that is compliant with zoning. And again, this is the right-of-way for Beachmont Avenue. Property across the street is zoned retail, so the same doesn't, the same 10-foot requirement isn't there. The Anderson plan, again, it does consistent with the goals and objectives of the Anderson plan for economic development, again, quality of life. The trails plan, there was an existing sidewalk along Beachmont Avenue. With the improvements through the zoning certificate in November, there is a pedestrian connection from that sidewalk to the front door of the bank. You did install a bike rack as well with the improvements. The design guidelines, again, with the addition in 2013 going into 2014, with the recent improvements, staff felt like they did come into compliance with the intent of the design guidelines. As far as the corridor plan, while the access on Beachmont Avenue is not being impacted, we feel that this scenario is a better scenario than the drive aisle before with the reverse drive aisle. also improving just the traffic flow through the shopping center. Even though they're not affecting Beachmont Avenue, we feel like the traffic flow through the shopping center is being improved. So staff's recommendation was approval based off of the following evaluation criteria, and there were no recommended conditions.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions of staff at this time from the zoning commission members?
I was
Jay.
just wondering with the increase in the 2-lane versus the 1, how close is it to the existing sidewalk if they're losing some of the new?
This is, the sidewalk here is identified in dash lines. They are I believe it was 1.7 feet from the right-of-way. So you can scale it, I can scale it out to get the exact distance from the sidewalk to the drive aisle, but there will be landscaping, the same landscaping that's there will be relocated, pushed out. So you'll have your sidewalk, the landscaping,
So
and
it'll
then
be
the
a buffer
driveway.
between the sidewalk and the...
Yes. And then there's the pedestrian connection was made with the addition. So here's your pedestrian connection to the front door.
Thanks.
Ms. Cook, anything?
No questions.
Mr. Gothard?
No questions?
Ms. McBride? Questions? Thank you. At this point, we'll invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward to the podium. Please speak into the mic, state your name and your address and any affiliation to the case.
Hi, my name is Mike Rubino of GPD Group. We're the architect and engineer on the project. The address is 520 South Main Street in Akron, Ohio. First, Paul, thank you for the comprehensive review of the project. And thanks for hearing our case. Sometimes the best laid plans on paper don't always work out in the field, and we've discovered that once these improvements were made at the drive-through, that we were still having some congestion issues with customers using the ATM and being able to access the VAT tube system for teller transactions. I think I mentioned earlier, just kind of off the record, that I thought it was the teller transaction traffic that was kind of holding up the ATM traffic, when in fact, after talking to PNC, it's actually the other way around. They're having so much traffic at the ATM, which is common these days with ATM transactions, that customers are unable to get to the teller windows to make transactions, and they're kind of having to wait in line. The improvements we're proposing will allow kind of more of a dedicated ATM lane, and then customers using the teller transactions to have their own kind of separate dedicated lane to help traffic move more smoothly. In addition to that, we'll have additional stacking of about 5 or 6 more spaces than we originally had with the original application. By doing this, I think we expect the drive-through to move more freely and customers to be able to finish their banking business quickly. Additionally, we expect more and more customers to start using the ATM that's also in the vestibule that we've installed in the addition. That is a 24-hour ATM that people are just kind of now figuring out is there and they can use 24 hours. So these changes, I think, are well warranted. Not a huge impact to the site plan. Like Paul said, we'll be relocating the landscaping that we just installed and tearing up the pavement that we just installed to make this work. But we think it's well warranted for our customers.
Thank you. Any questions from the zoning commission for the applicant?
No questions.
I have one question. And on your plans, it looks like you're identifying an ATM with pavement signage or markings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there any other plans for any other signage?
There won't be any new signage at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I had just a couple of quick questions. First of all, I think the improvements you made to the building are really terrific. I think they really incorporate a lot of what Anderson's trying to accomplish. So there'll be pavement signage that'll say ATM and then teller on the other, so when I come along, I'll be very clear.
Yeah, and like I said, the ATM's in the building there, so it'll be in that left lane, will be the kind of the ATM lane, and then that outer lane will be for teller transactions. I don't think there'll be actually pavement markings for the tellers, but we do like to do that kind of ATM-only lane on the pavement.
Okay. And then, is the turning radius being improved at all at that corner?
Yes, that was
'Cause I
also
can't-
part of that change, is that I think that it was originally installed at a 10-foot radius. I think we were able to bump that to 15 to 18 feet. That way the bigger SUVs and really even some of the smaller cars
I was doing
are
turn there, so
won't be hitting the curb as much.
Good. And then, one note, and you look at this and tell me what you think, but you've got that bypass lane, and then you've got the waste enclosure coming out, and I could see somebody saying, "Ugh, I waited in this line long enough, I'm gonna go into the building," coming through the bypass lane. Meanwhile, somebody else has come through the teller, and they're busy putting their stuff back in their purse, and they go, and this guy's going, whether or not it might be prudent to put some kind of stop sign for the bypass lane, just so that they at least look to their left before they go ahead and pull through.
Yeah, it's something we always kind of talk about, and I think it's something, I think the branch would be okay with if that's, if you feel that's important. I don't know, I'm not every driver, but I always do check, because I'm always looking out for the other guy, that if I'm pulling through, kind of take a look to the left, but I think the branch wouldn't have any problem with a stop sign or
You think?
before proceeding and making that
I
turn.
think that's the heavy-duty concrete. Okay, never mind, I may have misread the heavy-duty
Oh.
concrete symbol.
Yeah, if...
Disregard.
Okay, the actual enclosure doesn't sit in the pavement there, as you can see in the
you haven't
drawing you have there.
mentioned
That is, we do have like a concrete apron in front there, just so the,
Well,
okay.
one last comment, I'll let you go. Have you already gotten the easement from ODOT to allow for the shrubs to go into the right-of-way?
We have not. That's something we'll have to work with to make that happen. With that kind of 1.7 feet I think we have, it's going to be really close. I'm hoping ODOT doesn't have a problem with that. If we do, like I said, we were hoping to just relocate the plant material we have. If we have to look at an alternative plant material that's narrower but still gets some height, we'll do that and talk to staff about it before installation.
Any other questions from the zoning commission? No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As with the other case, if there's anyone in the audience that might wish to support or oppose the case, you may speak now. Seeing none, I'm going to ask one more time, any questions from the commission before I close this public hearing? No. So hearing no further comments, this hearing will be closed. As I said earlier, the commission may take this case under advisement and/or deliberate tonight. So with that said, what's the pleasure of the board? Take action?
Yes.
Sure. So I entertain a motion.
I would make a motion relative to Case Anderson 3-2014 PUD for the PNC Bank at 7500 Beachmont Avenue to approve the request.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ian McBride,
Yes.
Jonathan Goffin,
Yes.
Christine Cook,
Yes.
Jay Lewis,
Yes.
Matt Van Camp.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. Earlier, we amended the agenda to take a look at the minutes at the end of the meeting, so we're going to roll through these. You'll notice in these minutes that there are sets of us who are in attendance, so we're going to go ahead and take action on those and, have those individuals make the motion in second, the others can abstain, and then we'll just roll right through these. So the first set would be from March 24. Ann McBride, Christine Cook were here, so we'll entertain a motion on those minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes for March 24th.
I'll make a second to that motion.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Takes care of March. April, Mr. Gothard, Ms. Cook, Mr. Lewis were here. I'll take a motion on April 28th minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 28th, 2014 minutes as written.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Second, Ms. Cook. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we go to June 23rd. Ms. McBride, Mr. Van Sam, Mr. Gothard, Mr. Lewis were here. Again, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Lewis,
I'll
second.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Gothard. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Lastly, July 28th, Ms. McBride, Mr. Gothard were in attendance. Motion?
Skip June.
My turn? Okay.
Skip June.
I'll make a motion to
Did we
approve.
skip June?
We skipped,
We just did June.
Did? I didn't get June.
No.
Just did you?
We just did June.
We just did June.
Right.
we did June, okay. I thought
July.
We're on July now.
we're on July. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay?
Sorry.
All right.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the July 28th, 2014 minutes as written.
Mr. Gothard, a second.
Oh, second.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any other business come before the zoning commission?
There's
Staff?
not, we are expecting another meeting in September, so if you can mark your calendars, please. I don't know what the date is, but fourth Monday of September, so, but we are expecting another meeting.
Good. Take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the
Ms.
meeting?
Cook,
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Thank you all.